Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to laugh? Direct from theaters, comedy clubs, corporate events, and special events across America, the man who has spent decades amazing audiences. The man who has hypnotized thousands. The man who has turned ordinary people into comedy stars. The master of hypnosis, the king of comedy confusion, the sultan of silly, the wizard of wisecracks, the one, the only, Rich Wylde. And welcome to Wild for Jokes.
Hey, thanks, Ed, for that great introduction. Welcome, everybody, to Wild for Jokes. You know, I've spent years hypnotizing people, and I've discovered something. Some people don't need hypnosis to do silly things. They woke up that way. So let's get right into the jokes. You know, after all these years of marriage, my wife and I have developed a wonderful system. She tells me what to do, and I pretend I didn't hear her. My wife says I never listen. At least I think that's what she said. The other day, my wife asked me if I remembered our anniversary. I said, "Of course I do." Then she asked me which one. Apparently, the important one was not the correct answer. My wife says I leave cabinet doors open. I told her it's my way of helping her find things faster. My wife and I have been married so long that we finish each other's arguments. The other day, my wife told me to stop acting like a flamingo. I had to put my foot down. My wife said, "You never take me anywhere expensive." I said, "Honey, have you seen gas prices?" My wife asked me why I keep buying tools. I told her they're an investment. She said, "In what?" I said, "Projects I'll never finish." My wife says I tell the same stories over and over. The good news is she laughs every time. The bad news is it's because she knows exactly how long the story is. My wife told me to stop buying snacks. I said, "That's easy for you to say. You're not the one protecting them from expiration." The other day, my wife asked if I wanted to go shopping. I said, "What did I do wrong?" My wife says I'm getting old. I told her that's impossible. I still know all the words to songs from 1978. My wife replied, "That's the problem." My wife sent me to the grocery store for a loaf of bread. I came home with cookies, ice cream, chips, and a frozen pizza. Apparently, I misunderstood the mission. My wife says I never put anything away. I told her I do. I just can't remember where. My wife says I have selective hearing. I think that's an unfair accusation, and frankly, I didn't hear the rest of it. The other day, my wife asked if I was paying attention. I said, "That's a strange way to start a conversation." My wife and I have reached that stage of marriage where we don't need complete sentences. She just gives me a look, and somehow I'm already apologizing. My wife asked me if I thought she was always right. I said, "No." Then I apologized for lying. My wife says I spend too much time in my recliner. I told her I'm not sitting. I'm supervising. The other day, my wife asked me to fix the dripping faucet. I stared at it for 20 minutes. Now we're both dripping. My wife says I should exercise more. I told her every time she moves my snacks, I get my steps in. My wife asked me if I remembered where I put the remote. I said, "If I knew that, I'd be a genius." My wife says retirement has changed me. I said, "How?" She said, "Now you have time to forget things all day." My wife and I don't argue much anymore, mostly because halfway through I forget what side I was on. The other day my wife said, "You never surprise me," so I cleaned the garage. She almost fainted. My wife says I have too many hobbies. I told her collecting hobbies is my hobby. My wife asked why I keep every instruction manual. I said, "Because someday I might read one." The other day my wife asked me to take out the trash. 3 hours later, I came back from the garage with a flashlight, a screwdriver, and a fishing pole. I still don't know how that happened. My wife says I can't find anything. I said, "That's not true." Eventually, I find it, usually after buying another one. My wife asked me why I was staring into the refrigerator. I told her I was looking for inspiration. My wife and I have been together so long that date night now means finding a restaurant where we can hear each other, and where the booths are easy to get out of. My wife says I act like a teenager sometimes. I told her that's ridiculous. Now excuse me while I eat cookies for dinner. My wife asked if I had seen her glasses. I said, "Have you checked your head?" Turns out she was wearing them. For once, I was the smart one. My wife says I never finish what I start, which reminds me, I was going to tell you about the time. Well, folks, that's all the jokes I have for today. At least the ones I can remember. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending a little time laughing with me here on Wild 4 Jokes. You know, after all these years of entertaining audiences, one thing I've learned is that life is a whole lot better when you're laughing. So if you enjoyed today's jokes, do this old senior citizen a favor. Hit that subscribe button, give me a like, leave me a comment, and let me know which joke made you laugh the most. And if you didn't laugh at any of them, don't tell anybody. It'll ruin my reputation. Seriously though, every like, every comment, and every subscription helps this channel grow and lets this senior citizen know that you enjoy what I'm doing. And if you know someone who could use a good laugh, share Wild 4 Jokes with them. Because in today's world, we can all use a little more laughter. Until next time, keep smiling, keep laughing, and remember, you're never too old to laugh, but you're definitely too old to take life too seriously. I'm Rich Wylde, and you've been watching Wild 4 Jokes. Bye, everybody. And don't forget, laugh more, live better, stay wild.